Thanks, June. Now, as we just saw in the report, declining fish stocks are a major concern for the Emirate. Joining us now in the studio to tell us more about the measures the government is taking to protect fish stocks is Edwin Grandcourt, Deputy Manager of Marine Assessment and Monitoring Programs at the Environment Agency Abu Dhabi. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. Now, looking at the issue, for example, of fisheries, definitely something that's very important to fish stocks around the world. And what role do they play here in the UAE in terms of protecting our fish reserves?
Well, firstly, it's important to note that fisheries themselves don't play an enormous role in the economy of the United Arab Emirates, of course, because of the oil and gas industry and other large sectors like engineering. But they're incredibly important from a social, a cultural, and an employment point of view, because in small coastal communities often there aren't many opportunities for work. And also we can trace back fishing here 7,000 years, so it's an incredibly important cultural part of the life of Emiratis here. And also critically important is the importance to food security of the Emirates, because fish is a part of the production of the natural environment and has a yield that can be harvested, and helping to guarantee food security for the indigenous population here.
Mm-hmm. Of course, if you look at fisheries around the world, they're either fully exploited or they've already completely collapsed. So I guess with that context in mind, what is the state of fish populations currently in the Gulf region?
Well, it's good you mentioned that, because we're in exactly the same situation, unfortunately. And over the last 3 to 4 decades, there's been an enormous decline in the commercially exploited fish populations here. On average, the commercially exploited species today are about 20% of what they were in the 1970s. And if we take the most important and the most desirable fish species here in the Emirates, the hamor, that's in even worse a state, because today it's only at 10% of what it was in the 1970s. So effectively, the most important fisheries resources here have collapsed in very much in the same way they have all the way around the world.
So what's the root cause then for that dramatic decline?
Well, the driver is the expansion in the human population. Of course, there's been an exponential increase in the human population here in the Gulf region, and that's driven an enormous increase in the demand for fish. The fleet has expanded to meet that demand, and they've been harvesting too much fish beyond what can be caught sustainably. And some of the harvest rates are actually up to 7 times what could be harvested in a sustainable manner.
Really terrifying statistics, aren't there? And of course a big problem is that we've seen the exploitation of juvenile fish. Why has this presented such a challenge, and I guess how do you try and work around something like this? Are there solutions?
Well, that's right. One of the most important things contributing to this decline, it's not just the volume of fish that's being taken from the sea. It's the fact that the fishermen are using a method, gargoyle, which is a dome-shaped fish trap, in which the mesh size, or the holes in the gargoyle, are so small that the baby fish can't get out. And with this intensive exploitation of baby fish that haven't reached sexual maturity, then there's no, it jeopardizes the reproductive capacity of the population. So the ability of the population to regenerate itself is jeopardized, and that's really contributed very significantly to this decline we've observed.
So what can be done then to prevent this and to help rebuild our stocks, and what steps need to be taken now?
Well, there's a variety of measures that can be used to manage fish stocks and to rebuild them. And for example, where I'm working with the Environment Agency in Abu Dhabi, some of the measures we've taken is to declare marine protected areas. And these are areas where fishing is very carefully monitored and controlled. And within the marine protected areas, there is no fishing allowed in certain zones. They're called no-take areas. Other measures we've taken is to limit the number of fishing boats that can operate. They're called a cap. And we use a licensing system to achieve that. And we've also limited the number of fishing gear or traps that people can use. And there are closed seasons for some species, but increasingly looking at the problem and the gravity of it, we really have to now focus on considering a complete moratorium on the use of traps in the fisheries in the Gulf.
Absolutely.
It's going to take a lot of effort, I think, to get that done. As you said, it really is such a tradition here, but certainly some big steps need to be taken. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Really appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.